Awesome.
Yeah,
There you
what's up,
are.
man?
Welcome, Jax. How are you
Thank you, man.
doing?
I've been great. I've been great. How about yourself?
Doing excellent, excellent. I've been loving these every day, waking up, just enough time to get this going.
That's awesome.
And I decided to do this one outside because I've been inside so long. And I'm sure you feel me.
Yeah, I
It's good to
totally
get out
do.
every once in a while. Well, awesome. Now that I got a little introduction, now we were here to talk about all sorts of stuff. The mysterious character that you are. I know I met you probably, how's it been? 4 years ago?
Yeah,
4 years
yeah.
ago,
Ever since,
roughly.
yeah, down in the OC Magic Jams. Yeah,
Orange County Magic Jams. Yeah, down in Tustin. Now it's in Irvine. I know that's been on hold too for a little bit.
yeah.
But why don't you tell me a little about yourself so everyone can get to know who you are as well?
Oh man. All
Let's
right.
start from the beginning. How'd you get into it?
Yeah. So I guess professionally, I started with Magic when I was around high school age, and I auditioned for like the Magic Castle Junior program. I had a mentor before that because I was really into Magic, and I never like knew how to go forward in it. So my mom had a coworker, and he was a Magic Castle person. His name is Steve Silverman, and he was
Oh,
actually the person who taught me a lot of the stuff to get into it. And going into a group like that where you have so many of individuals of your same age, I think that's what really helped it blossom into like a career perspective. And then from there, it just kind of went from there. But I think I started getting into some of the psychological aspects of magic, or some of the underlying principles of magic when I was a bit younger. I didn't see like a magic show per se, but I think that, and this is something I'm recently been discovering about myself. I think that my parents and that my environment growing up was very spiritual or very occultist in a way that I didn't know. So we would do like rituals. We would do like I was doing like pendulum stuff, and I didn't even know what it was when I was like under 10 years old, and I was doing
wow.
uh,
So your
like
parents were already
little,
having you dabble in black magic. No,
yeah,
no,
kind of.
white
I mean,
magic,
like
hopefully.
in very much this gray area that I have found myself liking to get back into now and start to explore with more mentalism and more things that represent a space where it's real because you believe in it, and your experience is strengthened with your experience of it. I mean, really, it's those little gray areas I love to just find between truth and fiction, and have you decide, okay, what is the value of this truth and what is the value of this fiction, and try to bring them both together.
Yeah. Well, the
So,
Canadian magician said a good question. Like, why were you doing the pendulum stuff? Like, was it religious aspect or yeah? What was it?
oh,
Or were you divine?
um, yeah. So I think what my dad introduced this to me, and my dad introduced it to me as a way of accessing your subconscious. That's the way he presented it to me. And that's the way I do feel like it behaves. He was like, okay, so if you think about a question, and you establish tests for yourself. So he's like, okay, is a banana yellow? And then you see which you calculate that, right? He's like, okay, now think of a question that's no, and then it would spin or twist or whatever in the other way. And uh, he was like, okay, now think about a question that you don't know the answer to about yourself. And it was a way of trying to access my own inner desires, and not get confused with all the conscious thoughts that I have, and just try to access what I really truly want, which I believe exists in so many ways. I mean, you can do that coin flip thing, which I love, which is if you have a decision that you don't know which way you want to go on, you make one on heads, when one hit, one tails, and when you flip it, you in that moment you're like,
No.
okay, I want it to land on heads because I know I really want it, but I can't say it to myself yet. It's weird how the
I
human
know,
mind
isn't
just
that
kind of
crazy?
blocks itself.
I do it all the time too with the coin flip. I'm like, and it's purposely for that because we know, and it's just like when you're put on the spot, when you're put on under light and pressure, it kind of just boop, the pressure comes out, and you're like, I know what I want.
Exactly, exactly. I feel like so much stuff just blocks yourself naturally, that you just have to allow yourself to access your inner desires and your inner thoughts and your inner beliefs.
That's
Yeah.
great. I love diving right into this because I think right now is a very special time to really know what we truly want and reflect on a lot of things in life. And everyone that is at home with themselves, and now they're learning how to enjoy themselves and seeing their deeper
Right.
desires and what they want to be doing with their life. So
Oh,
it's a
totally.
definite transformation state, yeah. And that's awesome to be introduced in that at such a young age and not really be aware, but you became aware and you are aware now and knew exactly what that was meant for. And now to bring that
Yeah.
back full circle into what you're doing now makes perfect sense as who you are as a magician.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I have been, my recent career struggle or interest has been to go back to my non-thoughts, non-structured thoughts, if that makes sense. So when you get into magic, you are, it's very different than a lot of other arts, right? A lot of people say this, but you're given directives, you're given a way to present something when you learn something, and so it kind of locks you into this frame of thinking, and you'll find people try to break out of it. What I see that as is like people start to do card tricks, and they start to involve other themes with them, and it's like, okay, well, at what point does this still have to be a card trick? Why are we making this about this medium when it can be so much something different? It's because we're locked into a certain structure of thought, and it's just trying to get outside of anything which I know. Well, I can do that. Well, I have a method for that, or I have a way to do this, but um, what about the things I don't have methods for? What about the things that are so beyond my current structure that it's going to be my true self? If that, you know.
No, that's true. I mean, I've been bringing that up a lot throughout these live streams about, and many artists, we all agree, even the greatest, like Bruce Lee to Van Gogh, like to express yourself, to be yourself is like the hardest thing as an artist, to really express that.
Totally.
Because we have so many outside influences that's not really us. Like even our thoughts aren't really ours in a way. You know, it's coming
Yeah.
from like a book or media or whatever, and it's a trip knowing that, and then realizing like, who am I? What am I? What do I really
Yeah.
want? This is what my parents told me. You know, it all starts from like parenting, like culture and society, and you kind of get formed into that, and then you basically come to the age where we're at. I think like, you know, in your late 20s, you kind of get into that moment, I believe, for most people. And, you know, when you find a career, you're kind of in it, and then you're like, okay, now you're rethinking, is this something I really want to do? And
Mm.
sometimes I've met younger people that are teenagers, and they actually do hold on to the true self and true essence, and they kind of roll with it, which is great. You know, to know that at a younger age is good. But it's always adapting and evolving, so you really are learning so much from who you are or what you were and
Yeah.
what you want to become. And yeah, that's it's a real fascinating time to think about and to reflect on. And as far as I know, you're talking about magic and how we create our stories. And what's your process on getting into creating your show? Do you think about the magic or the effect, or you think about the story first and then put on the effect?
Lately, there. I've been extremely fortunate to be around some people that I feel like really do this well. But again, this is one of those things that's been changing recently, maybe in the last year or so. I have been performing in the same show as as Fitzgerald, um, and he is such a seasoned performer um, that I feel like I learn something from him every time I see him on stage. Um, he has a very strong grasp of visuals and how to really capture that magic moment in a visual format. And I think that I've been obsessing lately over taking a moment that I know I want visually to occur. I know I want to be standing here. I know I want to be doing this, and I know I want them to be doing that. It's just a picture in our mind, and I want to find something that will serve that visual. So that's the way I've been approaching it lately. Just because I think that's such a strong moment, and especially with mentalism, what I try to do is I try to make it physical. Because I mean, you know, technically mentalism is just like, okay, you're thinking of something, this is what you're thinking of. But that doesn't have all the power and punch and theatrics of something that does have all those other elements combined. That's why, I mean,
I know
Darren
that's one
Brown.
of the most difficult things to bring up in mentalism.
Oh,
To have that physical. I mean, a perfect example of that is, metal bending. You have that
yeah,
physical attribute. Um, but yeah, mentalism in general, it's like you got to really use the people, I think, more so, and then kind of be like the props because their reaction, because it's just a deeper attachment. Like, how do you get everyone to be attached to that moment? I think they have to be attached to you, of course, and then also
yeah,
the person maybe that's getting the mind read or whatnot.
yeah. The process and the stuff. And then lately, to run it back to, I don't think I really answered that question. I answered a part of it. Um,
You
uh,
get it.
I've lately been obsessing over things that I was obsessing over as a kid, and I never really knew that it was magic for a period of time. And so I'm trying to take some of those moments where I would watch like a ghost hunter TV. I loved, oh my God, those shows
Yeah.
were amazing. There was something that got me about it, but because they made something that's unreal real, they made it physicalized, right? They made a spirit physicalized. So there's things around that area that I'm trying to get back into and try to explore, and really heavily leaning on a lot of stage craft and a lot of just almost like illusion work in that sense. This is just about the visual, and then the story is gonna serve it in that way. So that's the full answer. There you go.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, everyone has oh, the madness to the method. And I got a
I
few
know.
questions up here. Some people are more funny. Canadian question or Canadian magic question. Serious question. How often do you smoke weed? Lol. Well, today's a special day, of course, for Happy 420.
Today is the national holiday, of course,
It is.
international holiday.
So
Um,
cheers. And I didn't smoke.
man, I don't know. I think it varies for me.
I only got. Oh, no, we'll do it like this.
Hey, look at that! Look
A
at
little bit of
that!
a roach. I'll save that for later.
That's awesome.
And this actually is not what it looks like. It's one of those.
Oh, that is so clean. Oh, love that.
It's for writing notes. I don't
That is
smoke. I don't know what you're talking
amazing.
about. And then what do you say? And then versus how often do you drink?
Oh
That's
man,
a good question, I guess. Yeah, are you into
I think
partaking in
yeah.
marijuana or into alcohol more so?
I think that I'll go through phases, and lately I've been trying to not actually inhale smoke. I think is the thing that I've been getting to. So, man, lately, I mean, we're in isolation. I've been doing it. I've been doing both very frequently at this point in time. I mean,
Yeah,
before, I guess, I have a couple drinks every now and then. I mean, I worked in a bar every week, so
right. It's gonna happen.
there was it was always there. And I think then I was the curious thing lately, I'm trying to tackle a magic problem when I'm pretty faded. I'll get a little you know headspace going on, and I'm like, okay, there's been a magic problem that I don't know how to solve, and let me try to approach it from this completely different space, this completely different mental space. And it's been successful, and it's been hit and miss. So I don't know. I'm fine tuning it, but I think that if I were to try to use altered states to try to tackle something with a new perspective, I think that's the most useful thing for me. So it's generally whenever I feel like I'm in a space where I'm not breaking out of it by other methods, and I'm just I want to try to play in that area. That's when I do it. So it's kind of sporadic. It's mostly depending on my state.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fun way to practice, a fun way to help you get out of your problems. Like you said, whether it's with magic and you want to find a solution, or really create a whole new solution or create a new magic effect. I'll get high and I'll get lost dabbling with
Yeah,
magic in front of a mirror, and I'm like, and then I'll have all these ideas. So I get excited. I'll have this, but I feel like time will just go by a lot quicker.
yeah,
And be like 2 hours. I'm like, man, what was I doing? Oh, it's just
yeah.
I got high playing with magic.
I
So
think someone else said it best. Really, this is just about changing your state, and then they were talking about some recreational drug use, and they were talking about like, oh, okay, this would not be a good time to use that. I feel like everything's going really steady in my life, and I want to just keep focused on that. But maybe when I want to switch it up and shake things up and get a new thing, like that's really how I feel about it. Like having
Yeah.
someone say that to me, I was like, that is kind of how it is for me. That's how I approach it.
Yeah, honestly, same here. I took a break. I took a break, like 40 days, like no drinking, no smoking, just like, I decided, oh, I'll try that Lent thing that everyone's done my whole life and I never took seriously. So I just gave up drinking, but then I eased back into smoking again quicker. I'm still not really drinking,
Yeah,
but now I'm trying to treat it more sacred and more ritually, like, and have like set like an intention for it rather than, hey, I'm gonna get high just and do that. Because I was one of those
exactly.
guys that would smoke every day,
Yeah.
like breakfast, lunch, dinner. Now it's like, no, I'm gonna do it mostly at night because I get a lot more faded than I pass out. So I'm now a newbie again. Uh, but those moments too, like you said, like everything's great. I'm on top of the world. I'm like, I want to seek some discomfort, and part of that is like getting high, but in
Yeah.
a safe environment, in a fun environment where I can
Yeah.
experiment and be creative and whatnot. So I like that you said that you
Yeah.
do it with that aspect. And let's see, Beer and Magic had a question about what's your favorite part of mentalism or mentalist, and your least favorite part of mentalism.
Oh man.
That's a good question. Yeah.
What should I do? Maybe I'll start and end with
Yeah.
what I
Why do
like,
you
and
like
then
it? What's your
in the
favorite thing you
middle
like about
I'll
it?
say what I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I like, what the first thing that came to my mind was there is an amazing mentalist out in the New York area. His name is Matt Cooper, and he uh, was talking to me. We're working at this little gig together, and we're talking about the different styles of magic. And he's like a pure mentalism guy, thought reader, and he was walking around with his little props, and such such small props, and I had like all this stuff
That's
on me because I'm
awesome,
doing
right?
like close up like walk around. I'm like, oh my god, like what are you doing? So that's what struck the conversation. But then he basically had a background in a lot of the stuff that I was doing, like false deals, all this stuff, and just completely forgot about it. And he's like, as soon as I started doing mentalism, as soon as I stopped saying I'm doing magic, as soon as I started saying I am reading your thoughts, people just stopped looking for any of the slights. People stopped looking for what I was doing, and they started paying attention to the thoughts of it. That started paying attention to the theater of it, and not trying to catch me out, because it's not a game of catching one out. So in magic, that's part of the fun too for me. Like when I perform a traditional like sleight of hand type thing, people are trying to catch me, and that's fun to run away from that and have them try to find it. But with mentalism, it's not about what you're doing here with your hands. It's about the thoughts that you're giving them, the whole psychology and framework of it all. And I think that is something I greatly appreciate about the medium, because people, it almost gives them a way to relax and just let the performance be. Because I think there's less almost antagonism with mentalism, which is can be present in a traditional magic sense, because the magic sense is so much about a reveal or an aha moment, where people will constantly talking about fooling someone else, or something like this, where mentalism, it's hypothetically, it's about a connection. That's what I view it as. It's about a connection of minds, and it's about people coming together and sharing something in a magical way. Like you can't necessarily transfer your thoughts like that, but that's the magic part of it. So it's so removed from like trying to catch someone, which I love about the medium. Um, and then the thing that I dislike about it is I dislike the ways in which people can get into it. I think that Jeremy Brown, of course, made popular this idea at the beginning of his career, the idea of NLP and the idea of programming someone's minds and thoughts. And I think that that gets back into the antagonism. That gets back into, here I am, the omnipotent, figure in this,
Yeah.
and I'm going to just make you do things, which I have never ever liked that style. I've never ever liked that premise, because like, magic is an escape for me, and it's an escape for my audience, and it's not something where I'm supposed to introduce you to this dark world where it's like, oh yeah, advertising controls you, and this is how I control you too. And I'm like, well, that's already the reality that we live in. Why do I want to just get more a darker reality here? I want to get like a
Right.
brighter world. I
I know
want to
that can
show.
scare some people, like, oh man, because you kind of reveal that truth of it, like even subliminal messaging or whatever, psychological force and all that, and they're like, oh my god, this guy's right. I'm getting manipulated everywhere I go. And they're gonna
It's
be
such
so
a
paranoid that they're gonna like
exactly,
hate it forever.
exactly. It's not about that. It's about magic is supposed to elevate you and bring you into a fantasy world, and it's supposed to show you how everything can be perfect and can be beautiful. It's not supposed to delve into the depths of humanity and the horrible things that are possible. It's like, that's what I dislike about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know for me, I love mentalism, and I'm getting back into it too, just because in the past year I kind of went down like a whole spiritual path, and it just goes aligned with mentalism. But in the beginning, I was really into it like 10 years ago, and then it was hard to do it seriously. I was doing it really seriously, like no comedy, just really like serious, And
Yeah.
it was good. It worked, and I was even doing like sideshows, trying to mix mentalism and sideshow, because I felt like it was so serious, and I did some of the real serious like freaky stuff, whether it was like swallowing the needles or a human blockhead, and I felt like it was tougher to connect with people. So I went towards like the magic variety and did mostly that, and still do. But only now I'm going back and looking back at it, and I'm like, well, I really love that, and now I want to bring it back into my life. I mean, when I use mentalism, it's more of just an accent to my magic. I don't really do so much of it. So I think it's perfect timing as well.
Mm-hmm.
When Jordan said, you don't like the Chris Angel vibes? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, not so much. And not so much the big breathing.
Yeah.
When something's happening, it's like, that's kind of freaking me out, man. You're just reading my mind.
I do love his aesthetic, though. I love it.
Yeah.
You have to respect someone that can stand out so much with a vibe and energy like that. I mean, I think that's.
I mean, people
that's
believe it. It's very believable.
Yeah.
I mean, talk to any layman, they're like, whoa, what's that guy's deal? They find it very attractive, of course.
Yeah.
With the makeup too and the goth apparatus.
Yeah.
No, I actually really loved Chris Angel right before he became too gaudy and the rock star, too much. There was a point where, like, at the late 90s and early 2000s, like, okay, yeah, Mind Freak, that's cool. Then it just went, like, over the top, like 20 necklaces, 10 rings,
Yeah. Once you go to Vegas, you can't
that's,
really go back.
That's what happened. Okay, Ever Magic, I'm a card guy, but I'm thinking of getting into mentalism too. Any recommendations, videos, books, or should I start?
Oh man. If it were me, what would I do? If I wanted to start, I wouldn't try to start performing it off the go. In my opinion, like, okay, so a card trick it's a pretty low threshold to be able to not know a card trick, to know a card trick and do a card trick. To do, I mean, you're going to learn so much along the way, but I think that get one or two really good principles down. There's a lot of back end work, like there is in magic as well. But it's so much of mentalism is providing that story structure, and so I would highly recommend trying to find some sort of an impetus for why do you want to start doing mentalism? Why do you want to switch? I don't think that you should switch if it's just to change what you're doing. I think that there's probably a reason, but that's up to you to find. Why do I want to switch to this thing? What do I want to express as an artist that I cannot do with like a traditional, sleight of hand or magic or something like that? I would say heavily heavily discover your source for why. And I think that will give you the answer for how you should start, where you should start, because there's so many good resources, but I think in the end, it's, God, I don't know, the more classic, the better, honestly. I mean, if you can get, the problem is with all old texts, you have to update them. But I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff in Corinda that's 13 steps mentalism, that's really fundamental, and I think that is probably one of the seminal texts in that area that we can still access today. You're gonna have to update a lot of the methods, but
Yeah.
the concepts I think are there to. And if you want a new method, just go Google it. Like if you want to buy a new thing or something that's going to provide you some sort of skill, it's like, yeah, it's all available now. That's what I would say. Look to old texts and new methods.
Yeah. 13 steps of mentalism. That's the Bible right there from that. And yeah, definitely got to update it, make it more modern.
Yeah.
Practical or mental magic, right? Was that Animan?
Yeah. Animan is great. Al Mann has some interesting ideas. Corinda, yeah, for sure. Osterland also has some interesting
Yeah,
concepts.
Osterland, yeah. Doc Kilford, too, actually was one of those guys that got me really into mentalism. He's got some good work. And yeah, someone mentioned like turning converting your card tricks into mentalism. And that's one way to do it. Like take a classic key card principle and do that as a mind reading or
Yeah.
effect. Like presentation, just turn your presentations that you do with card magic more mental. And
Yeah.
that will help you leeway into creating more mentalism with cards.
Yeah, I guess that would allow you to kind of dip your toes into it. Like when you first try to practice forcing or palming or something like that, you start to work it in. Who's really good for that?
Yeah, I think I used to practice a lot, just forcing a card just to practice the presentation of mind reading, practice the force. So I'm practicing the force and then practicing the presentation. So that's one way to go at it.
Totally. I think that's definitely a way. If you have some card trickery up your sleeve, then definitely get started. But Chan Canasta is a really good source. He has inspired a lot of people. I know one thing that David Blaine repeatedly does on his specials is a Chan Canasta concept, generally speaking. So it's fantastic. It works with stack, and maybe learn a stack if you know.
Yeah. It's a good time to get into that right now. We got time. It keeps going back to Corinda. That's good. Al Corinda, good too. You think mentalism and music can be combined in a performance setting? Ooh, that's a good.
Hey, Ariel, look at that.
Ariel, yeah.
Mr. Trumpet. You know what? I think the only man that can do it is Mr. Ariel Trumpet. No, I don't know.
He knows already. You just seen if we know.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it can. I mean, I think that all these things are just music is quite lovely because it's the way I see it is it's a passive art. Magic and comedy, those are active arts. If you're not listening to it all, if you're not paying attention, you're not going to get it. The music engages this totally other side of the human experience, which is, it gets you in an energy and gets you in a mood. I think there are a few people doing it. I don't know if anyone has done it quite successfully quite yet, but I think there's something there, and I think for someone that's talented in both to do both for sure. I have no perspective on it really because my mind doesn't go there. The way I use music mostly is just to set a mood before a show or during an intermission or after something, because I think that has a lot of power there. But yeah, besides that.
Yeah, I that intrigues me though. I mean, I definitely believe you can do that, and even for moments, maybe you are having a speaking presentation moment, but then you could have that moment where you're connecting and you're having that mind reading moment, and that could be the music moment. So maybe you have those tie-ins with the music, but also it'd be really cool to see a silent show mentally,
Oh,
maybe
that would
there's
be
music
interesting.
in the background, or it's just silent, and I definitely think that's possible. It would be very interesting. You would definitely have to be a strong character.
Oh, that would be so dumb. I don't think actually.
And for me, my goal is I really get. Yeah, there you go. There's something to tackle.
That's good. I love that.
Do it.
Love it.
So Fiddlin' Johnny, the magician who fiddles but haven't found a good way to bring them together yet. So you play the fiddle and magic? Well, I think you totally got to start working on that. It's surprisingly, you don't see too much of it. I think a lot of times when I see music, if people want to play music in their act, I mean, they usually got music in the background, but to be a musician in the act, there's that one moment where like, okay, I got to get the juice flowing or something. I've seen that happen a lot. Or they're doing music and they're playing guitar, they pick up a ukulele or even a harmonica. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be explored. That's something that's not entirely dived into yet, I think. I mean, there has been a lot, but I think you just should probably look into that as well. See how.
Well, what was funny? I was doing this show with Ariel that was a music and magic kind of like variety hour almost. And the thing that struck me about first of all, I grew up in a really music heavy environment. My dad was a music producer, and so I'd always had musicians around. And there's something that I love about the musician's spirit, because it's very different than a magician's spirit. A musician, it's very much about intense collaboration. Things just kind of happen and manifest. And that, to me, that is really interesting. And whereas magicians, like when magicians come together and jam, it's like, let me show you my thing. Let me show you my thing. Let me show you my thing. And it's like, no one's really coalescing here. It's all just kind of battling each other's energies.
Right.
Whereas
that's an interesting take to see that. Yeah, it's totally like that. I mean, sometimes in the music realm, it is like that. Like, here, let me show you a song. Let me show you a song. But mostly it's like, let's play a song together.
Exactly.
And in magic, you don't really see that. Like, what? It would be awesome. I mean, we should be doing that. Let's do magic
exactly.
together, guys.
Exactly. Let's make something. Let's tackle something. Let's create something new and fresh.
And this seems like a good leeway to something you do already with some magicians. With the four suits.
Yeah. Oh, true words. So yeah, four suits.
So you have
is
this experimental magic collection or collection.
Yeah.
I really like that.
The premise of, and I formed this alongside my good buddy Zach Young, and we were in New York together, and we were like, I've had this dream of having a collective of people that can all pool resources and pool energies and pool each person's distinctive, unique set of skills and help each other out, and all hypothetically be on a similar playing field where if one person has a project and they have a specialty, all these other people that have all those, synchronous specialties can come, jump on, help them out. And then when this person has something, everyone else kind of jumps and help them. And throughout like a cycle, everyone is going to be helping each other with all their respective skills. And that was the dream. And then basically when I found Zach, someone who identified with this so much, we started working together a lot to generate content, to generate thoughts, principles, to try to help the magic community. We started like a blog and like videos and all these things, and we started to try to bring people onto the team and really all work together to make things awesome. Really, it's just all founded upon the principle of magicians need so much. If I want to put on a show, like, you have to, find someone who's decent at, graphic design to make a poster or something like that, make marketing materials, have someone direct it, have someone help, create the effects, and, really, really take the show from beginning to end. And it would be lovely if, instead of having to go out and find people every time and find your own network, that you could just join a network where everyone has this shared goal of trying to further the art and try to approach things in a certain way, and really people of all the like mind trying to come together and help each other out. So that's really the principle of it. And it's crazy because today I kept on getting posts from last year as we did like a cannabis magic show, and it was actually on 420. Oh man!
And that was a year ago. So 1 year ago, right?
It was 1 year ago.
That's awesome. I remember that too. I remember when you were getting it already.
And that was
fun show. Tell us a bit about that show. How'd it go?
Um, it was, I mean, it was fantastic. We had a really little kickin' little venue in like the kind of the downtownish LA area. And we had a really good sponsor. Shout out Zoma Cannabis. Shout out Spencer. And it was a really fun time. We got a lot of magicians together, and we just that was something where we engaged the group. It was we all just came together, used our different skills. One of us is stage managing. One of us is hosting. One of us is getting all the snacks and all the food stuff together, and helping with tickets and all these things and admitting people. And it was a very fun little community experience. It was just an absolute blast, and I think that we had such cool stuff for this year. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to say it because I just want to do it later.
Yeah, you will. You'll get to it. No, and that's like a perfect example of how you've been able to use the 4 suits and get the group together, the team together, and you guys put on the show together. And,
yeah.
To also self-sacrifice. I think a lot of guys would be like, well, I want to be doing this, man. This is like my kind of thing. Like, hey, dude, you work on that, you'll get your time. Like, we're all sharing this stage or whatever, or, you work on the drinks, you work on this. And I think that's a great way how magicians can work together. Because so many times it's like, I'm the magician, you're supposed to be watching me. But it's like, well, no, you could be the magician right now, but we're here to help you sell your show, and then we alternate,
Well, and part of that totally reminded me that I totally forgot to say this, but at the beginning, one of the impetuses for this was the fact that when people watch a show, right, and they watch one person on stage, they go, oh, well, this is that person's show. And I got sick of that. I was like, this is not just one person's show. This is so many people's work. How can we honor that? And how can we, really call that into being? Like, I'm reminded of when you see David Copperfield's show in Vegas. At the very end of it, he's I don't know, this is the first time I've seen it, where he comes out and takes a bow with all the assistants of the show.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
All the assistants come out, they all take a bow together, and he's like acknowledging, this is not just me. I know my name's on the poster and you're seeing my face, but this is happening because so many people are putting in this work and making the solutions work. So that's really what it's trying to get at, at its core, and just help everyone try to make more stuff. Really, sometimes making stuff is hard.
Yeah, I know, it's great to have a team. I know for me, it's tough. I mean, just to do, I saw Beer and Magic. Those events are awesome because we bring in a community of magicians. And I know even for you work at the Black Rabbit Rogues, and there you have a community of variety entertainers, and you guys have to work together, because you're entertaining in maybe different ways of entertainment, but there's still that shared sense of community. And I think right now it's just a greater time to strengthen that community. I think after all this, we're going to be really wanting to help one another. I mean, if not now, I know it's going to be much later when we can really be there.
Yeah.
And, Fiddle and Johnny, we need more of this in the magic community. Yeah, we do. So it's up to us to make it happen. And that's why I've been doing these Slightly Smoking live streams, just really to connect people and to know that we're here to help one another. We're not here to divide and conquer. We're here to unite.
Yeah.
And just go on up from there, That's how it works. We got to stand on shoulders of giants to get up too,
Oh, totally.
And just like you said, to have good credit for where your magic comes from. I mean, there is a lot of work behind a lot of things we do, and it's not just us. It is a lot of our work that we put into studying hundreds of people's work to make our own. And people don't get that. I even feel a little selfish when I'm when people with laymen tell me oh, this is yours, you created it. I'm like, yeah, it's mine, but it's my version of this, and it's to break it all down. It's also kind of hard, and sometimes I don't want to break that illusion, so I'll just be in the character. I'm like, yeah, this is something I created and made it on my own twist on it, but I always will say, but it's study from other magicians and books and stuff to create what I have.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a credit where your art comes from, where your ideas come from. Even if it's just getting high or whatever it came from, it has a source.
Yeah, everything is constantly in flux, constantly changing like that, and it's kind of bizarre how uh, people. I wonder why people ask that. Actually, I wonder why. I wonder why that exists. Honestly, because
I think just curiosity. They just want to know.
yeah.
Just want to know the answer. Where do we come from? Where do we go when we die? Those are the two basic questions that will always be questioned. Well, let's see. If I like Canadian magician, he said, what did he say earlier? If you weren't a magician, what do you realistically think you would be doing for a living right now?
Oh my God, there's so many interesting comments here.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some good ones. Yeah.
okay, sorry. So what was the question again? Sorry.
It was if you weren't a magician, what would you be doing right now for a living?
Honestly, um, part of me really thinks I'd be a lawyer to some degree. Um, I I try to pay very close attention to words and logic structures, and I think that lends itself to that sort of mindset. I think there's another part of me where I'm like, I'm really interested in the hacking culture and the security community, and I think that's um, one of the reasons why we ended up at DEF CON for last year, and maybe for this coming thing. I mean, who knows if it's going to Vegas is going to be open, but I think there's something so special about the community, and something very similar to Magic in that sense, where you're trying to find a loophole, you're trying to break something um, in in a way that would benefit someone else. Finding an exploit, finding a 0 day is is a very interesting task, and presenting it to someone, it's like, okay, well, look, here you go. There's your little gap. Um, that's kind of what Magic is to me. It's finding a little gap in perception and trying to um, use it to create something interesting, to create something artistic. It's very similar.
Yeah. In Magic, we found basically everything if you look at it. And yeah, it's good to see other and pay attention to what other things you enjoy to create better Magic and who you are and what you want to present. I think a lot of people ask, like, well, what do you do besides Magic? Like, well, I do a bunch of other stuff because I like to do other stuff. But yeah, some people, we get so delved into the rabbit hole that we get lost and forget kind of who we are. And I've seen that in the community where they're really good and they mostly, I guess I would want to call them move monkeys because they're just obsessed with the sleight of hand. But then when they present it, there's not really a presentation. It's just like magic, which is, magic could speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But to have like another hobby, whether like for me, like I love art and music, so drawing or playing guitar, but it's nice. Or even to some people could be playing video games. There's some good eye coordination there, So whatever, I think you could use and find a way to make a living out of it too if you really love it. I think that's what it comes down to. Like we do it because we love it. That's why we made it a living.
Yeah, basically. How can I spend more time doing this?
Right?
I got to make money at it.
Cool. So here, I had a question. What's like your ritual before a show? How do you get ready? Do you have any like prep?
Yeah, so I definitely need everything, obviously, to be in order, to squared away. Any physical things that I would need for it. I think I get really anxious if that doesn't happen. And the one thing that I haven't been able to get out of my head ever since I read it was something from a Matt King book or a lecture, I forget where, but he was like, I like to be talking to someone and doing something right until they go like, oh, Mac, you got to go on stage. And I think that bears some sort of usage. I mean, I definitely enjoy being somewhat occupied in something until I have to go. Because if I'm not, I'm kind of in my own head a little bit, and I don't like that. The one thing I will do, though, that I don't know if I've seen many do it. I try to watch the audience as they enter, and I like to sit and try to imagine what they're like and how they'll react to things. And it almost is like a pre-visualization of the whole experience. I start to pick out people that I think will be good for certain things. But like as they walk in, I'll listen to their conversations. I'll like watch how they behave with their friends, and I think that all that just kind of goes into the performance and gives me some insight when I'm up there and searching for someone, and I'm like, I think you'd be great for this. Yeah, that's
it's always
virtual.
good to do some pre-gaming and pre-showing, in a way, like, and that's part of that, just watching and observing what you're coming into. And I think that's why also, as professionals, we go out and get there early so we know the atmosphere. We get to know the people too before we really start the show. I'll always kind of mingle before, and then I'm like, all right, it's gonna start.
Yeah, I think the more you get into that space, the easier the actual performance is going to be. Because realistically, like so much of a theatrical experience is not even the show itself. It's the drinks beforehand. It's the whole entrance. How do you get in? Like, where do you find it? Where do you park? It's like all these things build into the experience. And so it'd be silly for the performer to only think that the experience is only on stage. I think that there is so much more that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, especially even afterwards, I find a lot more like you'll do the show, then it's like you're hanging out afterwards. Everyone wants to hang out and talk, and you share maybe a little magic, or you just talk.
Yeah.
Because I'm just interested now, like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Let's see, we had a few more comments. What do we got? Is Four Suits Magic a registered LLC or more like my magic business here in our town, Ontario? Last year I brought in 6 figures, although not a lot of it was profit. Okay.
I gotta wonder about the Canadian. When I was doing the Fringe circuit for a brief period of time, everyone's saying that the Canadian Fringe circuit is where you cash in. I'm wondering if there's something artistically up there that's going on that we all are just missing out on down here.
Well, Canadian Magic, you know who to talk to. We're here.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's arrange a magic tour, baby.
I know. I was hoping to be up there this summer. I was going to do the same little tour from San Diego to Canada, up to Vancouver, but I'm not going anywhere right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Man, dude, beats me, man. I don't know. Like, how do you even? I don't know how I've done what I've done. I can't. No one has a rule book for any of this. There's so many ways to.
Right, we're all winging it.
Yeah, everyone's winging it, man. I think, God, I haven't gotten in super deep into like the business side of anything. Like, honestly, I'm so lucky to be where I'm at, anyways. I think that the only thing I can say on it, the only thing that I've seen be true, is that if you want money, you shouldn't be in magic, dude. If you want to make money, it's like, dude, go get a degree for, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be someone else. You
gotta really love it if you're gonna do it, because you're gonna have those sacrifices, and I know I do it for the love, not for the money.
No, 100%. At the same time,
yeah, I'd be way out of this.
At the same time, you do have to find some way to make a living off of it, and I think that the only way that I have found the way to make a living off of it is to not care about the money. And it seems counterintuitive, but I've heard a lot of people say this. No, and if you're in it just for the business side of an art, it is show business, but you do have to put on a kick-ass experience, and you don't get there unless you care more about the art than you do the money. You never create a kick-ass experience if you care about how people are going to perceive it, or who's going to pay this or who's going to pay that. That's the genesis. That's what you're selling. You're selling a fantasy. So that fantasy has to be rock solid.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. You have to go backwards.
Absolutely.